sometimes extreme measures have to be taken.
I want to talk to you about the form of Oscar Wilde a little bit. I remember you saying somewhere, I may not be quoting you exactly because it's from memory, that it's a shapeshifter of a novel.
I just think that I was able to, because of the 11 years, it suffers, it's suffering and all this nonsense, but it also gives you a chance to experiment. And what I was really happy with is the way that the book constantly flips on itself. I was very happy with that, which is to say that it begins to be a discussion about these boys, this one boy specifically, and then it flips to really this discussion about the women in the book. Suddenly they become very central to the book in ways that I don't think you originally imagined. First, it begins to be this conversation about these young people living in the United States, and then it flips entirely into this discussion about what it means to be Dominican in the Dominican Republic. You know, and it keeps flipping. Every time you want to say that this book is this thing, it changes completely. And not for everyone. For other people, this book doesn't work. But for people that the book works, I think that in some fashion, it's a novel that is pleasingly bewildering. You know, which is, it's there to really sort of make you at home in being destabilized. And it's fun for me.
For me, what was most fascinating about Oscar Wilde was that I constantly felt that the book was doing with its content what it was doing with its themes, what it was doing with its form. So, in a sense, you were saying with your words what you were saying with the way you wrote them. You know, a lot of your themes was about different kinds of dictatorship and, you know, living despite them, going through them. And the book with its form was also sort of a stand against that. You know? I don't know if that...
Oh no, I think that this was very conscious. I think that this is, you know, the other day there was a question about, oh, did you get any controversy about using the N-word in the book? And I keep thinking about, and I was thinking about, that the grandfather in this novel is destroyed because he said the wrong thing. The entire family's life and history changes for generations simply because he said the wrong thing. And just to touch your point in a small way, the narrator creates a book that's a scream against that idea. That idea that a human being could be utterly destroyed by them saying the wrong thing. This is a novel where the narrator, explicitly takes the joy in the freedom to say anything which wasn't possible for the people that this book commemorates, who were destroyed by these various dictatorships. And so in some ways I wouldn't disagree. It might be a pat on the back, but I do think in some ways the content and the form are confluent in this book, and again, a byproduct of 11 years of work. You get 11 years, you can start to dream big, and that was one of my big dreams.
You said that you did everything with this book that you were asked not to do, somewhere, you know, that you would be asked not to do.
Well, think about it. It's a multi-generational family novel that is 300 pages long.
No, I think I completely agree, but I'm wondering
Oh yeah, I'm not
why.
thinking you're disagreeing.
No, I'm wondering why you did that.
Well, because none of it works. I'm not... If I was going to do a book where the formula, where I was going to follow the formula, then it just seemed that they would be the wrong book. I think that for me, what mattered most was that I wanted to show my appreciation and my kind of awareness of different forms, explode them, and reveal that I thought their hidden possibilities. I think that, you know, by having a ton of silence, which multi-generational family epics don't have. The point of multi-generational family epics is that they eliminate silence. They show the life of everybody step by step by step by step. It's really reassuring. Well, I'm like, in the Caribbean, we don't have continuity. All we have is rupture and trauma. So what would a Caribbean multi-generational family novel look like? It would look like a book where half the chapters were ripped off and ripped out, and half the other chapters had water stains and you couldn't read it. And so I guess my mind rebelled against all the edicts, not because I'm superior or just because I'm a jerk, but because there was something already done about them. I couldn't do the same thing over again, but I loved those forms, so I changed them as much as I could.
Tell me something, do you still feel like an immigrant in the United States? Is it easier for you because there's a certain level of acceptance and you live in a society where these things matter perhaps lesser? Maybe, you know, from your father's experience, you know, how would that be different?
I am privileged in vast ways that my childhood self could never imagine. Privileged in vast ways. This is the truth of my life. And simultaneously, I'm still a person who runs over the English in his head before he orders anything at a store. You never stop being an immigrant.
You know, I heard you talk about, take a couple of questions yesterday about your, you know, how your race influence your being a writer and how you feel about being asked this question. I had a different question on that, which is that in an increasingly politically correct world, what are the subtler ways in which racial prejudice operates?
When we think of politically correct, I see it from a different way. I think that most writers that I know in the United States, a better way of saying this is that I would argue that white privilege right now, at a time where people of color have been growing in power and in presence, I would argue that white privilege now is less questioned than it was 30 years ago. And I think that both on an internal level, whether it's all of us trying to marry people lighter skinned than us, and all of us thinking the lighter skinned people are beautiful within our own community and the lighter eyes are beautiful, or it's how easily white people are given privilege and access where no other person from our own community would be given such privilege and access. I feel that this is a fundamental issue and that it's in many ways plays itself out subtly in every field.
Tokyo Rose, it's a post-apocalyptic sort of setting, right? And yet it's reminiscent of what happened in the Caribbean, trauma, and all of that. It's very interesting to me that you're using the future, a futuristic setting, to talk about the past. Why did you choose this? Why did you make this choice?
Because people have an enormous resistance to the past. People don't think of the past as, in some ways, as dynamic and as relevant. I think that our sense of the past has shrunk with this new subjectivity that has been sort of inflicted on us by the state of capital we're in. And I think that recasting the past in future terms allows me as an artist to get past people's resistance and to sort of energize it. In other words, to make it in some ways new. I think in a way that a historical novel wouldn't permit me. You know, I mean, that's the goal. Whether I succeed or not,
No, I think it works really well.
Well, we'll see. I haven't written it. Thank you.